Okay, we're continuing in the class on Metzora. And we're learning from the book which is called Likuti Torah by the first Rebbe of Chabad. And in the book, in this book are discourses explaining using a lot of terms of Kabbalah, but mostly explaining this in order to activate our souls, our love of God, our fear of God, our awareness of God, our faith in God, our serving in God, to be able to speak the way God wants, and to act the way God wants, and to think the way God wants, namely according to the Torah and according to the how do you say, the spirit of God, the spirit of Judaism, which is in the Torah, which God wants to imbue in us. So in order to do this, you have to have a little bit of an idea of what God is. To love God, you have to have an appreciation of what God is. You can't, you bring a person a rock and say, "You give me $1 million for this rock." You say, "I don't know what you're talking about. What's was?" You say, "No, that you don't appreciate it. This rock is genuine kryptonite or whatever. It has magical powers to it." Yeah, you're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about. But if you look into it and you start to realize this is really so, I can't believe it. And this thing is worth $20 million. He wants to sell it for only $1 million. You have to look into things and evaluate them and understand them. And that's the whole idea about loving God. You can't love God unless you look into it and you evaluate it, what God is, and understand it. And you come to understand that God is a tremendously precious and, I say, valuable, if you want to call it valuable, the source of all value, alive. Nothing more valuable and precious and dear and intimate than our Creator is creating us. So if you like yourself, for sure you'll like God. So we've explained now that there is a thing in the Torah called Metzora. And what's this relevant to us now? At first glance, it only seems that it's relevant in the time of the temple. You had to bring sacrifices and to purify yourself. And people had to know all the laws. They don't know the laws now. So the Torah is coming to tell us that no, that this Metzora that was back there, it was very firmly based in reality. Very firmly based in reality. And one of the big problems is that now we don't know what reality is. We don't know what reality is, right? The whole world is one big fake news. Well, not just what you see on television or radio or whatever. And the whole entire, everything that's being sent to us, we misinterpret. We misinterpret the world. We're misinterpreting life. We misinterpret everything that happens to us, everything that happened to us, everything that's going to happen to us. What's the goal of man? What's the purpose of life? Why do I wake up in the morning? What's really good? What's really bad? We misinterpret the whole thing. So that's what the Rebbe is trying to get to us, right? And that, of course, is the idea of Mashiach. Not for no reason. The Lubavitcher Rebbe said that every Rebbe of Chabad was the Mashiach of his generation. Every Rebbe of Chabad was the Mashiach of his generation. So the Lubavitcher, this first Rebbe, Chabad, that he wrote the book, the Tanya, he is not easy, no exception. He is like the example. He is like the prototype of what it means, Mashiach, namely to educate the whole entire world. That's the idea, educate the entire world. They said, like about the Or HaChaim HaKadosh, the Rebbe Chaim Ben Attar, that he was the Mashiach. The idea is to educate everyone, or to try to educate, at least put it out there so that it's talking about Mashiach in a way that is got the right ideas, right? To educate the world about what Mashiach is, what life is. Okay. So here we're saying that if a person gets the whole thing wrong, is that God sometimes sends him messages. And the messages are in the forms of discoloration of the skin, sometimes of the discoloration of his garments, or even of his house. We're going to learn about it in this week's Torah portion. Messages that you got it wrong. You got life wrong. Nowadays we don't have this. anymore because everybody would have these blotches all over themselves. It wouldn't be a sign anymore. It would be just natural. But back then, it used to be a sign that a person has to readjust himself. What do they say in the GPS? You have to readjust your settings or whatever is your goal, or right, start from go back directly to go. You have to start over from the beginning. So that's what I'm talking about here. One of the big problems of mankind is they don't appreciate the Torah. They don't appreciate what the Torah is. They don't appreciate what the Torah was, and they don't appreciate what the Torah is. They don't appreciate that the Torah was given to us directly by God, and they don't appreciate the fact that it is being given now also directly by God. And when a Jew learns the Torah, as he changes the whole world, One Jew learns the Torah, changes the whole world. Maybe it's imperceptible, maybe it is perceptible, we just don't know how to perceive it. We don't have the proper organ. Maybe we do perceive and we don't know what we're looking for, right? We don't have any idea what you're looking for. Right? We don't know what it means, the revelation of God in the world. But whatever, in any case, when a Jew learns the Torah, and especially learns it in the proper way, it has to be learned in the proper way, as it makes a big change in the world. And if either the Torah is not learned, or even if it is learned, but it's not learned in the proper way, as back then it used to make this thing called Metzora. Metzora means, it says, is the removal, the absence of life. In Kabbalah, another word for life is Chachma. Chachma. Another simple meaning for it is what's called Bitul. Bitul, life is, the essence of life is harmony, surrender. Surrender. We've said this so many times, like a person is in a sports team or in an orchestra or in anything, the government, what it's supposed to be anyway, that you don't do what you want. You do what is the right thing, right? In an orchestra, all of a sudden the bassoon decides, he's in the background too much. He decides he's going to play whatever he wants to. Okay, it'll work for a couple of minutes. He'll get a lot of attention, and they'll call the guards. They'd have him taken out. So he'll get what he wants, but he wrecks the whole thing. That's not. He'll never get another job. If you want to be a good, musician, whatever, so you have to play according to that song, right? Even if you're playing jazz, whatever it is, the wildest jazz, you have to be somewhere at least in the direction of where everybody else is going. You can't do that. You can't do what you want. You have to do what's right. So that's the idea of bittul. Bittul means surrender, surrendering your will to something higher. When you do that, so something comes bigger than you can come flowing through you. Right? The pianist, he plays exactly what, whoever it is, Liszt or Chopin, whatever he wrote, as he plays exactly what it is. He can put in his own, his own interpretations and his own style and his own this, of course, but you have to play the music. The same thing is in life. But of course, it's much bigger. Here, the things that we're giving examples are things that are smaller than us. Here, we're talking about the word part. We can make something flow through us, godliness, that the world becomes healthy, the way it's supposed to be, like a healthy person. A healthy person does not feel himself, right? How are your hands today? How are your eyes today? What are you talking about? My eyes, something wrong with my eyes? No, just, how's your nose? How's your tongue? What do you mean, how is my tongue? What does that mean? What do you mean that? You had something wrong with your tongue, didn't you? I don't have anything. Maybe you're talking about something else. I don't have anything wrong. If something is wrong in your body, you feel it. You feel it. Then you ask, how were your ears? How was your nose? How was your face? Right? But if you don't, just ask a person, how are you? I'm great. You feel anything? Feel your feet? I don't know, what are you talking about? Feel my feet? Now it made me think about it, but usually a healthy person doesn't feel himself. Healthy person. The same thing is spiritually. If you're healthy, you don't feel yourself. As soon as a person starts becoming an egotist himself, I think, I want, I know, I can, I want, Everything becomes sick, right? Now they're worshiping in America and these places. They worship what I want. I feel I am a man. I am a woman. I am an animal. I am whatever you feel. That's you. That's pretty sick. I mean, that's maybe the ultimate sickness that there can be. I mean, this is even worse. What is sick? The ultimate sickness. The ultimate sickness is when a person thinks that he's sick and he thinks that he's healthy. That's the worst sickness. At least a person's sick and he's sick, you can go to a doctor and get fixed up. But if a person is sick and he thinks that he's healthy, so then that's really, that's really bad. That's like in Nazi Germany. The most healthy thing in the world is to go and kill people and to rape, and that's a healthy person. You don't want to do it, you're sick. So that's what the Rebbe is talking. That's a sickness. This is a disease. Metzora is the sickness. It's the sickness of egotism. And the sickness, the disease of egotism means that you cannot be surrendered to the truth. There's no chachma. Chachma is life. Life doesn't come. That's called chachma, right? Another name for chachma in Kabbalah is also called Abba. Father and mother. In the 3rd chapter of the Torah says, when there is gone this Ora Chachma, if a person does not, he wants to surrender, he doesn't open himself up to the Creator, Yotzim, to Moratam, there isn't a place, right? Nature abhors a vacuum. If there's a person doesn't want to fill himself with any surrender, any being in harmony with the Creator of the universe, he doesn't want to, then in their place there comes Negoim. These are signs, letters, signs, that there can be, there can be, nurture for forces of evil and separateness and egotism and destruction, etc. That's the idea of Metzora. Okay, now we sort of skipped over a little bit, not really, but this whole thing of Metzora, it comes down to speech. It comes down to speech. One of the main causes of this Metzora is when a person says bad things, especially when he says bad things about other people. Unnecessary, damaging, bad things. And that's using his mouth, his power of speech, for purely egotistical purposes, damaging purposes. God is the creator. The opposite of God is destruction. Right? The opposite. God also creates that also, but he wants you not to choose it. Okay, that's the Inyan of Metzora. Motze Shem Ra. Motze Shem Ra, bringing out the bad name. Like it says in Eitz Chaim, the Leah of Rachel, Nikra Shem, right? Jacob had 2 wives, Leah and Rachel. According to Kabbalah, it wants to say that Jacob, he's like the emotions. He's the emotional aspect of God, the central pillar. And Leah and Rachel, that's how he's expressed. That's where all the tribes come from, right? Leah and Rachel. Leah and Rachel. This also corresponds to us. This is like the lowest, how everything comes out from us. Leah corresponds to thought. Rachel corresponds to speech. Both of them are letters. We said before that if in the side of holiness, Leah corresponds to the written Torah. Rachel corresponds to the oral Torah, the Talmud, etc. And both of these are called shame. They're called the name of God. Motzi Shem Ra, the power of speech. Like we said before, that he brought down. Did he bring down from here? No, that was yesterday. We read in Chumash. There's in Proverbs. It says the death and life are controlled by the tongue. What a person says can either bring him life or the opposite. When a person speaks out against the king, that's it, off with his head. A person knows how to say a beautiful idea, right? Oh, he gets very, right? praiseworthy. Hainu, namely, Maimer Zal, what the rabbis say, Kala Torah Kula, the whole entire Torah is just the names of God. Shem Tov. This is what's called the good name. But a person that speaks harmful, destructive speech, which is the opposite of good, and with letters and the vessels of holiness. Good is taking the lesser letters of holiness. As speaking bad, damaging speech, this is the opposite. When a person uses his mouth to speak negative things, harmful things. One minute, what happened here? And so he causes, by what we do, causes Gam Lamaila also by God. B'makom Shem Tov, instead of good name of God, which that's what the world is created from, and that's what the Torah is. She'em otiot v'kelim de kedusha, which these are letters and vessels of holiness, which that's the way the world is supposed to be. Yatzu Muratam, there comes in their place otiot anikra shem ra. There come letters which are called bad name. Hari shebechinat shem ahu. This name, ba'otiot elu, and these letters that he now decided he wants to be God. Right? The person decides, I want to be God. Well, I'm made in God's image, so let me do what I want. God created the world from speech. I'll create my own worlds from speech. It'll be something new, not in tune with God. You can do it. Then what happens is these names, these letters that come out, who makor chayos hara, this comes out to be the source of bad in the world. I know like it says, and Eitz Chaim, the book Eitz Chaim, Negaim, that from these negaim, from this tzorat, there comes yanika leklipas, there comes nurture to the side of evil, of bad. Who, like it says, like about the Dora Flaga. But you can see very clearly, right? Some important person, whatever, stands up that everybody respects, and he speaks out against something or someone, or he says that some bad thing is good. Just says it. Just says the word. Oh, everybody quotes him. He said that this is good. This is it. And the fact of the matter is, I mean, the fact of the matter is, right, someone stands up and says, here we have, what's the name? Stealing is good. Nothing better than stealing. We have to steal from the rich and give to the poor. We have to steal from the rich. Someone stands up, says, we must do it. That was like the communist ideal. Steal from the rich, give to the poor. So everybody says, oh, this is a wonderful idea. This is so inspiring, right? How many words are there? Steal from the rich, give to the poor. 8 words. That's it. Changes the whole world. 8 words, everything becomes total confusion. Houses are burned, robbed, people are killed. That's what happened in communist Russia. That's exactly what happened, right? One guy stands up and he says, Germany is best. We should conquer the world. Germany must conquer the world. 5 words. That's it. From those 5 words come a bloodbath. Millions of people were killed. Inspired the hearts, right, of all these people. Just bad words. A few bad words can cause destruction to the whole world. That's what happened when the Dora Flaga. It says that the generation of the, what's it called? The Tower of Babel. Nasel lanu shem. They said, let's make a name for ourselves. Al derzel, like it says, benefilim, hayu ba'oretz. They're called anashei shem. They're called men of name. The Nephilim were these angels. It says they fell down. That was the reason that God brought the flood to the world. That everybody had just completely, how do you say, the diverted godliness into egotism. Anshe Shem. The Cain Badas Korach, also by Anshe Korach. It says also by Korach, Anshe Shem. Who was Korach? You remember the story? shocking, terrible story. Part of the Torah, eternal Torah. Korach was a person that stood up, did absolutely nothing for the Jewish people, nothing, had no record, no receipts, had never done anything for the Jewish people. Stands up one day and says, Moses is taking too much power for himself. Let's depose Moses and Aaron. Let's depose on Moses and Aaron. Everybody said, oh, that's a good idea. Let's do it. All of a sudden, everybody, all the Jewish people, everybody, they all went against Moses. I mean, incredible story. The Torah is not ashamed to print a thing like this. Korach just stood up with his power of speech, and he convinced all of the Jewish people to go against, right? All the Jews are holy. Who says you're better than everybody else? That was it. Finished. Moses, yours out. Moses was out. They had to make a big war against them in the whole story. They're called Anshe Shem. Why are they called people of the name? Famous people? Because the argument of Korach on Aaron, Korach, he wanted to be the high priest. Aaron, who gamken shelo ratza sheyu alevim tefillim, he didn't want the Levites to be secondary, v'nichnaim, and to be subservient lebechinas hamshachas mochin. Aaron, he was the Kohen. The Kohen draws this level of life, chachma, Abba, into the world. That's life, but it demands surrender. You have to receive it, right? Like we said before, if the heart, the lungs, the liver, the stomach, if it wants to be healthy, it has to act like a heart, act like a liver. A heart can't act like a liver, and a liver can't act like a lung. It's a big problem. Everything has to have its right place. The place of the Levites, they had their job. Aaron had his job, right? The Levites, that was something like Bina, and Aaron, he was like Chachma. He was supposed to bring blessing into the world. And Korach didn't want it. Korach wanted to act that the heart, the Levites, let's say they're like the heart, they should act like the brain. That's like Aaron. Can't do that. But everybody said, good idea. Why not? Why not? Right? Why should there be rich people and poor people? Why should there be differences? We'll make everything's going to be equal, right? New world order. New world order. Well, it works for a while. It does. It works for a while. Everybody gets really excited about it. Aaron a coin. They didn't want that. They wanted that the Levites. One second. That's right. They wanted the Levites to be equal. They would be a thing on themselves. They shouldn't be subservient to anyone. That they would be like the heart, going up to God. That would be their thing. And that would be alone. Something like Nadav and Avihu. We had the same thing. That's Levites. They were like Gevura, from below to above. Like it says, that's what it explains in the Zohar Reish Pashas. Korach, smola as klila tadir b'yamina. It says that the left side, that's the side of severity. That's like the Levites. They have to always be included in the right side. That's the side of blessing. That's the side of Aaron. Korach boilach lafa. And Korach wanted to change the whole thing around. That's what it says in the Zohar. And this came the nurture of the klippas, which are called shame ra. There came the nurture from evil, from sides of destruction, which are called shame ra. Bad name. And that's the thing of Metzora, Motzi, Shem, Ra. In other words, name, that's the powers that create the world. They can also be used, the same things can be used to destroy the world. That was also the people in the Tower of Babel. The Tower of Babel, what did they do? They used, it says, mystical, Kabbalistic ideas in order to draw power and to, how do you say, divert. divert God's power, God's speech to their own selfishness. They wanted to build this big tower, and they knew that the secret was unity, that if they had unity and harmony between them, but nevertheless, there has to be bittul, there has to be a harmony that you give yourself. So they said, okay, we'll give ourselves, but not to God. We'll give ourselves one to the other. Everyone will agree what we do. We'll have a democracy, whatever we're going to have, and we will we'll take the place of God. That's what's called they built the Tower of Babel. How did God stop them? It says he confused their speech so that they didn't understand each other anymore. So they couldn't put out these bad names anymore. That's what it says, Anshe Shem. It says on the Korea, Anshe Shem. It says also by Korach, the Anshe Shem. Also, Lashon Shem is called a Sham, also over there. By Sham Yamutu. It will die over there. The Mitzor, that's what it says. And the Mitzor is like someone who is dead. Why is he dead? Because he separates himself personally, purposely. The person has separated himself from God. But when he separates himself from God, then you really feel good. You feel you're separate. You're the boss. You're God. You feel that you are God, which is like a great feeling for a while, until all of a sudden reality kicks in. Like a person that takes drugs and whatever, a person that's a thief, right? So in the beginning, everything works great, right? And we're great. He takes drugs, it feels fantastic. But then after a while, he realizes that it's all a fake. It's not real. It's just a copy of reality. It's not really reality. And that's what's called a bad name. What's to fix it? How do we fix it up? Rafuas, by means of a coin. You have to bring them to the coin. The coin, who mamshich or Abba, the coin draws down this light of Abba, of Chachma. The coin, he's a person that's devoted totally to God. And because God is real, and because God wants to be revealed everywhere, and because God is really creating and enlivening everything, that's the fact. So the coin just reveals the truth. That's all. What is health? What's a healthy person? A healthy person is a person that acts like a person is supposed to act, right? A healthy person is a person that like the person that goes to a shidduch. Shidduch is in the religious Jews, they make you meet up. You don't meet girls on the street or something, or go to a party and meet somebody. Usually what they do is they arrange a meeting. You sit and you meet. They find out about the man, about the woman, what you like, what she likes, and then they try to find someone who's fitting. And you sit and you meet with somebody, you talk for a while, see if it's really works out. And then if it does, you meet again. You meet a few times. Some people you can meet 20, 50 times, 100 times. Until there's a guy who comes to one of these meetings, a shidduch, right? And he says, the first thing I want to show you, I have a certificate here that says that I'm normal. I have a certificate from a psychiatrist that says that I'm normal. What type of thing is that? A normal person is normal. You don't have to have a certificate to say that you're normal. A healthy person is healthy. You don't have to have a certificate to say that you're healthy. The world is supposed to be healthy. It's supposed to reveal godliness. It's supposed to reveal the true potential of everyone. It's supposed to be revealed. Afterwards, we're just creations. And every moment is an adventure. It's an unfolding reality. That's what it's supposed to be. But as soon as a person decides he wants to take control himself and he wants to control the whole business on his own, so you can do it for a while. Like Achashverosh we had in Purim, he ruled the whole world. But all of something, he kills his wife and a little average, because in the end he's not God. He's not really God. This is what's the trick? You want to be normal again? You have to go to the coin. The coin, he's the person that he's a normal person. He's attached to the essence of God, like every person is supposed to be, and he makes people healthy. He makes people normal. The coin draws down this light of Abba. He draws down the light of true life into the person, like it says in the pasuk Balos Chasaneros. Look over there. Binyan Shelcha Gadol Meo Shalhem. Okay, there's another mimer over here, which we'll learn later on, how it is that the whole essence of the Kohanim is to make light in the world. Make light in the world. What does light do? Light just shows you what's there. That's the Kohanim, just to show you what health is, what a normal person is supposed to be. connecting by means of the Kohen. He draws down this, what's called awareness of Chachma, this feeling of life, into Zeranpin, into the emotions, to the 7 days of creation, and also into the emotions. Then Yesod Abba, Bokeh Yesod Ima, V'yamshachas Bechinas Hashuv. Then this level of Yesod Abba, Yesod is the, let's say, the second lowest aspect of Chachma that comes down into the world in a deep way. This comes into Yesod Ima, which that was the whole problem. Yesod Ima means this feeling of egotism, understanding. I grasp, I know, I feel. Then Yesod Abba, which is surrender to God, comes through Yesod Ima, which is excitement from myself. And then there can be shuv. Then a person can come back to the world and be normal. So you have to have both. You have to have enthusiasm, but the enthusiasm has to be controlled. As the language of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, orus the tohu b'kelim d'tikun. There has to be excitement, tremendous enthusiasm, unlimited enthusiasm, and that unlimited enthusiasm has to be put into limits. Too much limits is no good. On one hand, too much limits is no good. There has to be enthusiasm. But on the other hand, too much enthusiasm is also no good. So there has to be both. That's the whole idea of Yaakov getting married to Leah and Rachel as two wives. Yaakov is the letters Yibaka. Yaakov is the letters of breaking through. So Yesod Abba, that this aspect of Yesod Abba, the second lowest aspect of Chachma that comes down into the world, this corresponds in a human being to the organs of procreation. Yesod Abba is the organ of procreation of a man, and Yesod Ima is the organ of procreation of the woman. But it comes down into this world that way because that's the way it is in the upper worlds. And the Yesod Abba, of course, in this case, the man is God, and the woman is the Jews. So we're saying that the Yesod Abba, Abba is God, but it's also, we said Abba is this aspect of life, Chachma. So it comes down into the world, into the Jews, and then Misham Nimshach Hashpa, into letters and thoughts of the Torah. Machshava and Dibur, thought and speech. Leah is thought, Rachel is speech of the Torah. So it says or ba'ad or. Okay, it means the garments. These are the skin, the garments. These are the hide with the skins. The garments for thought and speech and action of God that come down into the world. That's Leah and Rachel. These are the letters, the vessels, the deeds, the thoughts, the speech. Deeds are also form of letters. God created the whole world from letters. That's just letters make the deed. Like it says, Hashem Melech Geus Lavesh, like it says, God is a king. He clothes himself in glory. That's what it says. This will be the Torah of the Mitzvah. From the Torah, that the Torah is what heals this egotism. Okay, now, when a person learns the Torah, a Jew learns the Torah, it fixes them up automatically. Automatically fixes them up. 15%, 20%, fixes them up. Fixes up his thoughts, speech, and action, his attitude, his soul, his emotions, fixes you up. That's it. You learn the Torah, you're fixed up. Like we say, 15, 10%, 20%. The other 80% you have to do on your own. But nevertheless, at least this gives you a little handle that you, the possibility that there's something more real than yourself. There's a creator. It gives you a handle to the infinite. But not just the infinite the way you understand it. Infinite means getting out of the world. Infinite, this is the infinite the way God understands. That's the big point over here, this level of Chachma coming into the world. How important and precious this world is. How godly it is. And that's what fixes up the mitzvah, that the letters of the Torah, because the Torah is pure godliness. This fixes up the Torah. The letters of the Torah, this is a good name, which fixes up the bad name. That's, by the way, the reason that the founder of Judaism is called the Baal Shem Tov. the master of the good name. Like it says in Eitz Chaim, this is what it says. Omru zot tia. This is what it means when it says this will be the Eitz Chaim. This will be the Torah HaMetzora. What does it mean, Torah? Ki kol bechinat heyoto Metzora. That the only reason that this person is what's called a Metzora is lesiba, because of his stalkut mochin, because of the absence of this awareness from Abba, from Chachma, faith, lacking a connection to something that's above understanding. And that's called the Torah. If so, because it's lacking this light of wisdom of the Torah, therefore, ela esek haTorah. Therefore, you have to learn the Torah. The Torah has this godly infinite life inside of it. Kamayim Razal, like the rabbis say, Lochein Omer Torah. That's why it says Zotia Torah Metzora. This week's Torah portion, how does it start out? This will be the Torah Metzora. This will be the Torah, the law of the Metzora. It doesn't say this will be the Taharat. This is how you refine, you purify the Metzora. It doesn't say how you purify. It says this will be the Torah. It doesn't say this will be the Tahara, the purification of the Metzora, which it is. It says the word Torah Metzora, which sort of is out of place. It says not out of place. The only way that we can cure this disease in the world, which is called egotism, separateness, selfishness, is only by means of the Torah and learning the Torah. And amazingly enough, when a person learns the Torah, which is just the Torah, is just another book in the library, right? But it's not at all. It's true, God put it into the physical world. The world also seems to be normal, right? The world is also a big miracle, but it's nothing, a miracle like the Torah. Al derech zeh, it also says in the Midrash Tanchuma and in Yalkut, Murape Lashon Eitz Chaim. It says the healing of the tongue is the tree of life. This is what in I think it's in Proverbs. Torah Eitz Chaim. The Torah is what's called the tree of life. And this is what brings healing to the Metzora. Shahotzi Shem Ra, that the Metzora, he made a bad name. The Torah is the good name. Hainu, Mishum Sha'ali de Torah, because by means of the Torah, Mamshich Mochin da Abba, you can draw down this level of what's called Mochin da Abba, the awareness of Chachma. That's what it is. Tov Shem Mishem and Tov. That's what it means. It's better a good name than good oil. What does that mean? Good oil. At one time, oil was a big commodity. It's better to have a good reputation than to be rich. This we're talking about here, to make God a good reputation. Shu Hatavas Hashem. This is what's called improving God's name. Like it says Hatavas Hanerot. Like it says that the Kohanim would improve they would fix up the candles on the menorah. Like it says in another place. Hainu Ali the Torah of mitzvahs, by means of Torah and mitzvahs and the commandments, that this draws down this what's called good oil. Oil is mishchat kodesh. Oil is another synonym also for chachma. This is the opposite of the bad name, like we said before. Look over here, look over there. This is also biyom tarato, and a day when he is purified. That's what we say in the Torah Metzora biyom tarato, in the day, and it was shining light. Let's just do this. Okay, like it says in Parshas Kedoshim Daf Pei Amud Beis, V'tah Chazi, come and see. This is in the Zohar. Ta Chazi, come and see. Lo itdaki barnash a person can never be purified, ella, except b'milim dorais, except for words of the Torah. This is Aramaic. Begin kach, therefore, milim doraita lo makablim tuma, because the letters of the Torah do not receive impurity, can't become impure. Begin the iu kaima because they are they exist only in order to purify others, le'ilan misabe, to those people that are impure. Therefore, healing in the Torah is found. Look over there in the Persian Ramaz, Moshe Zechut, he explains the Zohar over there, that the Torah comes from what's called Mochin Stimoin. The Torah comes from what's called the hidden brain of God, hidden mind, that in it is enclosed what's Gevura Da'atik, Kabbalistic stuff. We're going to go over this tomorrow. And this is the source which fixes up all of the severities and the hardships and the difficult things in this world. This is what's called, this is drawn down, this level, which is called Koras Satan, tearing up the forces of evil. That's the whole idea of the Tanaim and the Amoraim. Remember, we talked about that last year. They were able to raise the dead. It says that they were able to split the sea. It says there was the Hanina ben Dosa, was it? He split the sea, the Jordan River, and that the Rabbi Yehuda ben Yehuda Hanassi, his pupils, they were the last of the Tanaim. They were able to raise the dead. There's other stories of Amoraim, 100 years later, that raised the dead. Sha'ali Dezeh was, by means of this, the power to do tremendous miracles. What? Through the Torah. And that's the key. The whole meaning thing of learning the Torah, it has to be in bittul, in surrender to God. That's this idea of shuv, coming back to godliness, which is not the case. A person that says, all I have is Torah, right? That all he doesn't want to have any connection to the giver of the Torah. A person like that, he's learning the Torah, but he hasn't got the point of the Torah. And then we're going to talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. Now let's learn the Sikha of the Rebbe. We'll finish the Sikha. Here we go.